Hello and welcome to East End's Haunted History. And with me today is man for all seasons, Monte Farber, author, musician, playwright, just man about town, and his lovely wife, artist, author, psychic, both of them psychics, Amy Zerner from the Enchanted World. I just want to, I'm Colette Gilbert McLean. I'm so happy to be your host, and welcome to our very first Haunted East End. Amy and Monty, I am
Thank you,
so
Colette.
delighted that you're here.
We've known you for a long time.
A long time, more than almost 23 years now.
I love that
This
you know so
lifetime.
much about history. Because we've talked about costumes from history.
And you've been, I've written about you,
Yes.
about your history and your amazing art and your beautiful fashions.
Thank you.
And we have a connection with fashion. My mother was an illustrator for Vogue patterns, and I'm a costume designer for theater. And you are just one of the most amazing designers on the East End.
Oh, thank you.
And your signature pieces, each one is just a wonderful wearable art that anyone who has the pleasure of owning it. I just recently have two pieces. I'm the luckiest girl in the
Thank you.
world, but absolutely
Well,
phenomenal.
you guys are wearing
Look at
some of my tarot
this.
designs, which I thought would be
I
appropriate.
love it. I love it. And I love the happy sunny face and all of that. I'm glowing right now. So we're here because it is spooky season. It's October. And I thought, what a wonderful way to start this wonderful season and this show by having my two favorite people on to talk about something that you've been working on for a good part of your professional and personal lives. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about both the Psychic Circle and the Crystal Spirit Talking Board.
You go first.
Well, we invent tools that help you get in touch with your intuition in different ways. And many years ago, when we've been together 50 years, so in the 70s, we
Well,
discovered.
that's one, hard to believe. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
we love each other a lot. And I design the books and the tools that we do, Monte writes them. But years ago in the 70s, we found an old Ouija board in the thrift shop. I'm a big thrift shopper. We brought it home, we started using it, and we would get such interesting information. And one time it said, well, the old Ouija board says copyright William Fuld. So one time it said, this is Van Fuld, it's spelling it out. I was William's brother and he stole the idea of the Ouija board from me, and I want you to do the Psychic Circle, and it gave us all the directions and the symbols. This was way before we even did books.
It was in the 70s, and we, in the same session that it actually described and named the Psychic Circle that we didn't sell didn't come out till 1993, but this was in the 70s. And we have these handwritten pencil notes at home, and it also gave me karma cards, which was the first book that came out on Penguin Books for a 45,000 first printing, but
Wow.
yeah, in the same session.
So we basically reinvented the Ouija board.
Right.
It's been very popular. It's been in solid print since then, the Psychic Circle. But we give meditations and ways to protect yourself, because it has a very spooky, weird reputation.
It's not a toy. I mean, it goes back to the time of Pythagoras. In China, they would use a chopstick through a little basket on rice, and it would make a character. There's an ancient history to talking boards. The Changing Light of Sandover, which is
James Merrill
right
was a Pulitzer Prize-winning writer, and he wrote the whole Pulitzer Prize-winning book on the Ouija
on a
board.
Ouija board.
It's so fascinating. What do you think is the pull? Why do you think people should explore this particular tool?
Well,
Everyone wants to know what's on the other side, so there's that. There's talking to spirits, talking to ancestors, talking to, loved ones. That's when it first became popular. We were talking before the show about the spiritualist movement.
Yes.
After wars, when people lost so many people, and people would make their own ways, devise their own, and draw their own. talking boards. They're called talking boards or spirit
Yes.
boards.
Right. And also, you said before that it's spooky season, and I know what you mean, and Halloween is an immensely popular, I think it's the most popular holiday, but it's not spooky. We're all gonna go sometime. We're all gonna find
To us,
out.
it's not spooky. It's probably not spooky to
No,
you either.
No.
no. But it's always what is the unknown? The
Yes,
unknown,
the
right?
mystery.
What is the call to the great void?
Right.
Because we're calling, we're all like, is there something continuing after we
Yes,
leave?
yes,
And I mean, I think there's a romance to a talking board.
definitely.
The romance is that we believe that there is
That connection.
that connection.
And I do think we write about this, each of our boards comes with a book that sometimes it's your higher self that you're talking to. So it's just a meditation tool that helps you go higher and to listen.
That's fascinating because I think I mentioned to you, I was reading about how the great psychologist Carl Jung was using the planchette, was using
I
a
didn't know
talking,
that.
I didn't know that either.
and he was talking about synchronicity with the planchette, which things would align because it's so very valid. If
Yes.
you're accessing, whether it's your higher self, your greatest good, your highest and greatest good, which is what
The Akashic records.
exactly.
Which-
But the tarot cards work the same way. And
Yeah, the tarot cards were the first search engine. You know, you would ask a question, you'd get a card, and you have to figure out what it means, just like when you get an answer from Google or one of the other ones. It's like, it's never really accurate, and you have to figure out what's going
I
on.
mean, we can do it without a tool, right?
Yes.
We can ask a question and get an answer, but it's like a security blanket in a way.
It's
And
training
as a visual
wheels.
artist, I like the mandala and the symbols. I mean, it's all about symbols.
Well, it's interesting when we talk about histories, and I don't think I've ever told you this story. Back in 1986 or 87, it was right after I had my first son, who you know. And there was this wonderful article, and it was all about you and your amazing tapestry art. So this was like 80s, I think it was 86 or 87.
That's when Amy won the National Endowment for the Arts.
That's it.
Maybe it was a woman's magazine.
Yes, it was.
Like a goddess magazine.
Yes, it was.
Which is, we've all been into this for so long, but it's so great how it's so popular now. I mean, tarot, astrology, all these things that help you connect.
Well, I want to say that article inspired me to renovate this 1820s Victorian house I was in. Haunted house, Victorian house. And I have such great stories from that house. And that article really launched my storytelling and my playwriting career.
Wow.
Because I thought, here she is, she's taking scraps of fabric that many people would have it's just a little thing, it's a snippet, and you created these beautiful, meaningful tapestries, this basic iconography, or how could we call it? Maybe it's
The Enchanted World.
it's the enchanted world. You created the enchanted world, and to a young mom who is at home with a little toddler,
That's so beautiful. Thank you.
and I'll show you pictures of the house I restored, and you'll be. That's my gratitude to you. That was
Well,
you
I appreciate
inspired
that.
me.
We're OG. We're original gangsters of spirituality. Well, now it's very common, and everyone has a deck, and everyone is.
Everyone's been to a psychic. We say everyone because I guess we live in a certain
Well,
world.
it's a lot less resistance than when we first came out, and we sort of feel that we helped it along. We had an
give
impact.
birth to a young
Thank
woman
you for your
just
story.
came up to me the other day and she said, if you hadn't done what you did, we wouldn't be doing what we do. She was a yoga teacher.
A tantric yoga teacher.
Oh wow! Well, there's
Yes, if I
For
wasn't
those
sure-
of you who know what that is,
for me it's oil can. I don't think I could get into that shape and.
if I only had a heart.
But I want to come back to your design
Yes.
on the crystal sphere. Can you tell me why you chose certain gemstones and how they incorporate into your use of this talking
Thank
board?
you. Yeah, so Psychic Circle came out in 1993, and this one just came out. And look at it's sort of a unique kind of board because
Yes.
you can fold it up and it doesn't
Well,
wrinkle.
because technology moved on, we sold it as the Crystal Spirit Board, and then the company that we sold it to, Schiffer Publishing, they said, well, there's this new technology, we can put it on something that just rolls up.
I love it.
But they didn't change the title.
So we love crystals. We've written books about crystals, and we've been doing that for a long time.
We collect them.
So we thought it would be a great way to use the crystals as symbols of energy.
Yes.
Which is also ancient. And people
Yes.
make fun of crystals. Okay, there was a man named Marcel Vogel, who was the head scientist for IBM, invented the floppy disk, the black light,
LED.
LEDs, all the television and the equipment, LEDs. He invented all this stuff. What did he study when he retired with over 100 patents? Crystals. And actually, there's a crystal called the Vogel crystal because he was into how it's cut. And crystals power the whole world, and everyone's like, oh, crystals, new age. No, crystals, science, just like the Akashic Records is the quantum field. Science has caught up to spirituality in a certain sense.
Yeah.
Monte, could you tell us a little bit more about the quantum field and your book?
Well, Quantum Affirmations, which is a book I wrote a while ago, I might be remembered for it, is where I postulate that the smallest particle that quantum physics should analyze is consciousness. Because light is both a wave and a particle, so consciousness is you tell me, because they still don't know what consciousness is. But if you apply the tenets of quantum physics, which Einstein calls spooky action at a distance. That's what he called the quantum entanglement, which is if you clap two electrons, I think he was talking about, together, take them to opposite sides of the universe, spin one, the other one will spin. It's hard to understand, and I think Niels Bohr said, if you don't think that quantum physics is weird, you don't understand it.
Well, Colette, you're featured in the book as an example.
Yes, you are.
And that's an interesting example because when you interviewed me 20 years ago, I was struggling very much. I think I've lost at this point 120 pounds.
Amazing.
And I'll tell you, the influence of the time with you reading your book was the impact that it has had on me has been literally life-changing.
Well, here we are in the future, because in Quantum Affirmations, we talk about in every moment is implied probable futures based on what's going on right now. So in that future, in that time when we were doing the Quantum Affirmations video for the book club, there was a future where you lost 120 pounds. So how do you get to that future? You have to quantum entangle yourself with that particular future by doing the exercises in the book.
What was that exercise in the book about exploring what you didn't want to happen?
You combine your
Yes.
gift with your goal.
Right.
That's it. Can you explain
First, you
that?
look at your history with what you desire. So it's all about having a goal. Then you look at the history. Then you combine your gift. You think about what your gift is, whether it's cooking or acting or making art, and you combine that with your goal. Because that comes true effortlessly and endlessly.
If you could pronounce it
That's
with
something
it.
that's easy with something that you think is harder to attain.
Sort of to take the negative charge off it. But what you want to do is you want to visualize at the very end, you want to do what I call a contemplation, which is to visualize in your mind's eye that future with all the negatives that come. Because there's a book called Fat is a Feminist Issue. So because we're talking about weight loss.
Yes.
For women, losing the weight means you're going to be attractive and you're going to have to deal with people being attracted to you. So that's what that book, Fat is a Feminist Issue, is all about. So it's to visualize yourself in the future as having lost that weight and having somebody that you don't necessarily want to have talk to you come up and talk to you. So because your mind, your spirit, your soul, whatever you want to call it, knows that nothing is 100% great.
You have to visualize the whole picture, or else it won't make it real.
Right,
In other words, if you're just saying an affirmation, I have everything I need, you have to visualize, once you have everything you need or you want, what are the negatives that might come with that?
right, it's,
Because that makes it more real life.
And
because then
as
you can get to that future.
and see, that's interesting because how that translates into the talking board is it's about visualizing and asking about the future, your future self, your future
Yeah.
decisions.
Well, your questions, so important. Sometimes people don't know what to ask or what they want to know. I mean, they do, but it's harder for them to get to that.
It always comes back to bravery, because doing the talking board, I mean, thank God Simon and Schuster published it and still continues to publish it. But when you do something like this, the first brave thing is you have to tell somebody that you use it. And then the other thing is you have to face the fact that who am I talking to? Death. I'm going to die. The whole
But it all goes back to what you're talking
reality.
about the quantum field, because everything is connected all the time.
Right.
But it's interesting that you brought up bravery. I like to think of the word courage.
Sure.
What does courage mean to us on a daily basis if we're on a spiritual path? And that spiritual path may be, I want to be a better person, or I may want to change a habit that I'm not happy with, or whether someone's in a place of addiction. You have to have courage to change. You have to have courage to love. You have to courage to love yourself. And what is the greatest form of self-love but being able and courageous enough to have introspection? And what this is a
Yes.
tool for is introspection
Yes, and contemplation.
and contemplation.
Yes, and to be in that space where you can receive guidance and understand what's true and not true, because it should always resonate with your heart. You don't want to get advice, tell you to do something dangerous or
No,
whatever.
it's in the book also. But, I mean, Amy grew up here, graduated East Hampton High School, and you're having your show, East End Haunted History. We're actually coming from that tradition you were telling us about before with Harriet
Beecher Stowe,
Right.
whose
Uncle
father,
Tom's Cabin.
Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Big book.
And what was the book about? It was about liberating enslaved people.
Right.
Now we don't read the book like we used to for literature. We read it because of the weight that it had on history.
So what time period was it?
So
Civil War.
So the pre-Civil War. So Harriet Beecher's father, Lyman Beecher, was a minister and an educator here in East Hampton at the Clinton Academy. They lived right down the road, right across the street from the Osborne Jackson house.
Amazing.
And the interesting thing is they had, at this point, 6 children. Lyman Beecher's wife had a little girl they named Harriet. And unfortunately, that baby passed away in infancy. And the mother was inconsolable and just kind of, you can see, suffering from postpartum depression. And she gets pregnant immediately. And when she's about 7 months pregnant, he gets an offer to move to Ridgefield, Connecticut. And Harriet, the second Harriet Beecher, is born in Ridgefield. But they still had ties here
Sure.
to the East End. And the main tie is her father was a huge proponent of the temperance movement, about freeing people from the addiction of alcoholism. Of course, it wasn't called alcoholism back then. So she took that idea and wanted to have to see everyone as equal, and that everyone should have equal rights, that we're all human beings on this shared walk of life, and that no one is greater than another person. Harriet Beecher Stowe lived right next to Mark Twain in Hartford.
Well, that's amazing.
It is amazing because when she gets older, she may have had a little dementia. She would sneak into his house and tickle him, surprise him and tickle him, which I thought, what a great story. Wouldn't you love to have Harriet Beecher Stowe come into your house and surprise you with a little tickle?
That's pretty amazing. And Mark Twain was another person who visited Southampton. We've seen pictures of him at our friend's house with his great grandfather.
So you were saying that she used a talking board?
I have one of her books. She was a huge proponent of using the planchette, and she wrote an entire thesis page on the how you use it and why you should use it, and the importance of using it if you choose to use this tool
As a spiritual.
as a spiritualist, as a spiritualist.
But it's also been used for business. You know, the oil companies use dowsing.
It's like dowsing. We always,
Yes.
It's
because people say,
radionics.
well, how does it work? It works like dowsing.
It's just like dowsing, and they use it today. To find oil. I know people are going to say, "Oh, that's not true." It's true. They use dowsers. They've always used dowsers. They certainly used it back in the time of the Rockefellers when they found oil in
I
Pennsylvania.
mean, you don't know how it all works, but when they asked Thomas Edison how electricity works, he said, I don't know, but it works.
Intuition. Years ago, when I was living in this Victorian house in Rockland County in West Nyack, New York, there was a spot on our property that always had an interesting feeling. And I decided, well, let's put a little garden there. And my son Jason was maybe 7 or 8 years old, and he starts digging. I said, "Why are you digging there when we should dig here?" "No, Mom, I got to dig here." He starts digging and digging, and all of a sudden he's bringing out things. I said, "What's that, Jay?" He goes, "Mommy, it looks like a bone." And we start digging up, and he actually found a part of a human skull. And my dear, yes, true, but this was his intuition. My dear friend, who's a pediatrician, came by and she's like, "Oh, these are human bones." We had to have an entire investigation done.
Wow.
Of course.
And they found that they were very ancient and probably from the
Wow.
Lenni Lenape tribe. And yes,
Wow.
so it was intuition that led a young child to that spot. So when we use intuition, whether we use the tools like
Yeah.
this is a wonderful way to start connecting the strength of your
Mhm.
intuition by using these kind of tools. Or what else do you use for intuition? What's on? What is? Did you bring any of these?
I did, yeah.
Can we take can you show our wonderful public some of your cards?
Should I get up?
We have 5 minutes. Let's do it.
Well, as I said before, the tarot is like a search engine. You shuffle the cards and you get a picture, and in this case, you get 78 of Amy's tapestries. As each one is
78 tapestries.
yeah, it took 2 years for her to do
It's
78.
Zerner Farber.
Yeah, so you start off with one card readings, though in the book we talk about multiple card readings and upside down and all that other stuff. Best thing to do is
One card.
is to start with one card and just see what you see in there. There are people that read playing cards because what it does is, like Nostradamus used to stare into a flame. It diffuses your consciousness to the point where you can allow yourself to step out of your own way and get information from your subconscious, which is tied to the Akashic record, the quantum field.
That's right.
And how absolutely brilliantly said. Thank you. That's
But-
amazing.
It's simple.
Well, he
It's
has
like
written
plumbing.
Whole book about it.
We've done 50 spiritual power tools. We call them spiritual power tools, the cordless variety.
So
you pick a card.
Pick a
No, it's all
card.
my-
You think
Alright.
about what you want to know about, you pick a card. You know, it's not fortune telling, but it can help you make your fortune.
Okay, I'm not going to look at it.
Okay, how beautiful.
Speaking of making your fortune, this is
That's what
the
it
big
is.
money kid, the big money king. It's the king of pentacles. Pentacles became diamonds, as you can see,
Yes.
and use
Business
a diamond
card.
shape in the
Were you
background.
thinking of a question?
I was thinking of a
Makes
money
sense.
question.
Well,
That's
this is the
in.
big money answer.
Well, so it's
That's
another example
wonderful.
of how it's all connected. That's what Carl Jung talked about with the synchronicity.
Yes, exactly. Well, I want to know, when you were designing this, was there any time that you felt like when you're making these tapestries that you had to tweak it to be able to have people really connect with the image?
That's
You know-
not how Amy works.
Oh,
I
no.
worked very spontaneously, but the one card I did have a problem with, well, I'm an Aries, so there's the Temperance card, which is all about patience, and Aries are known for patience. So I actually burned it with the iron, so I had to cover that up.
And if you look at the clock,
I was in such a hurry.
Amy put, what did you put, like 1 at the
The
top
clock
instead of
was
12?
askew because the same thing, but that was a lesson for me personally.
Yeah, so
but-
the card means patience. When you get that, it's to think about all the different aspects of patience.
Before-
But if it was a
artist-
number one, it's really about who you're asking a question
See, but
about.
now you're
Yes.
getting information from your subconscious.
Yes,
That's,
You know,
so
you're
it
figuring
was
it
a
out.
happy accident.
we have that in one of our other oracles, we have a card that says happy accident.
Yeah, it's called the
Some
creativity
people
oracle.
don't understand what that means, but you know, if you're an artist and a creative, you know what it means.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
I mean,
gosh.
Amy and I have evolved our lifestyle to be what we want, and we like to share what works for us with other people.
Because it's fun, even though it takes you deep, you know, it's fun also to find
Yes.
out about yourself and other people and how the universe
Well,
talks to us.
it's liberating.
Yes.
And it's a joyful
Yes.
adventure.
And it turns out that, you know, where we live is like a big trick or treat area, so
Oh,
we've attracted cars and cars and cars of kids.
Monte, are you still offering readings?
I do readings. Thanks to Zoom, I do readings for people all over the world. you know.
And where would they find this information of
Well-
how someone can book a reading with you?
Well, so our website is enchantedworld.com. Big surprise, right?
It has everything we do, but
Yeah.
you can book a reading.
And Amy, where can someone get something as
Same place.
fabulous and
We can see it all on our website, enchantedworld.com, and also at Bergdorf Goodman in New York City. I have a rack of my one-of-a-kind clothes.
I was fortunate enough to just be able to purchase one of your one-of-a-kind pieces,
You
and
got in on the ground floor.
Thank you, Colette.
I'm over the moon
Well,
with
Amy's
it.
been at Bergdorf's for over 20 years. She's their secret weapon. And those of you who have seen the movie Scatter My Ashes at Bergdorf Goodman know it's super hard to get in there, and it's even harder to stay there.
We have our own documentary that's coming out next year.
Yeah.
It's all finished.
And what's it called?
Amy and Monte.
Monte. Well, I have one. I want to thank you both for being our first guest at
What an honor.
East End's
Thank
Haunted
you.
History. I hope that you'll be a repeating guest here.
We'd love to come back.
Thank
I
you.
would love this, and I hope that you have the most wonderful, wonderful adventures in helping people connect with their higher selves for their highest purpose. I'm Colette Gilbert McLean. Thank you so much for joining us on East End's Haunted History.